big games in the Champions League tonight, Sevilla and Bayern Munich, but the one that we want to focus on now is Juve against Real Madrid. Paddy Agnew joins us to talk to us a little bit about this. It's the Zinedine Zidane derby. Paddy, good morning to you. How you doing?
Good morning, folks.
So, Allegri is apparently already speaking in English in press conferences to try and subtly drop hints that he wants a job in English football. Zidane is apparently already on his way out unless he can deliver a third Champions League in succession. This is a ridiculous sideshow to what promises to be a really good game.
Yeah, of course, I agree. A ridiculous sideshow to a game which sees a reproduction of last year's final and a game in which Juventus come up against a side that really have been a bit of a problem for them over the years. Because, the reality is Juve have been to 6 Champions League finals in the last 20 years, and they've only won once. And twice the side that's beaten them in the final was Real Madrid. And, obviously, they're approaching this one with a lot of circumspection.
Tell us a little bit more about Allegri and why he's reached this point of finality, it seems, with the Juve job.
Well, it's not entirely clear whether it is a finality or not, but it's obvious enough why he would have got to that point, because if he wins the league title this year in Italy, and it looks very much like he will, that'll be the 7th consecutive league title he wins with them. So you would say to yourself, he would say to himself, well, I'm not sure if I can do a lot more here. I've had a couple of goes to the Champions League. I've been in 2 Champions League finals. I've lost those. Maybe I'll move on. It's
as simple as that. It's just a little bit of change as good as the rest for somebody in Allegri's position, and also his reputation is never going to be higher than it can be now.
Absolutely, he's at the top of his reputation in not just in Italy but in Europe. But I mean, I think that whole group of coaches. I mean, we've got used to it by now. The Mancinis, Ancelottis, Ranieris, Mourinho's. These guys, they just move all the time, and their shelf life in a big club. The Barcelonas, the Man Uniteds, the Man Cities is 2 or 3 years if they're lucky.
Like, there's one thing wanting a rest or wanting a change from your current environment, which is completely acceptable when it comes to this Allegri story. But then there's this other thing about joining Chelsea. Surely there has to be an element of self-loathing about wanting to actually work for Roman Abramovich.
Well, the paycheck's good. I'm not convinced about where it is that Allegri wants to go. I would be convinced that he probably wants to go somewhere in the Premiership. That's the logical place for him to go. But there have been, there've been every now and again his name is linked also to big Spanish clubs, starting with Real Madrid and working down. So I wouldn't put all your eggs in the Chelsea basket there.
Real Madrid actually seems to make a lot of sense when you consider, I mean, it makes no sense, obviously, that they would think about getting rid of Zidane because they've had a bad league campaign after his incredible start to his managerial career. But from the way that this works and from the realpolitik of the situation, it makes a lot of sense that they could easily end up with somebody like Allegri. They've got a track record of looking to Italy for managers and having Italian managers find success there.
Yeah, well, Ancelotti didn't do too badly. Capella didn't do too badly. There's also the environmental consideration that, I mean, a coach like Allegri would transfer to the Spanish context, Spanish reality, much more easily than he would to England. He'd have a lot of difficulty, initial difficulty, adapting to England. And culturally speaking, not just football culture, but every type of culture, whereas he'd settle in much quicker at Real Madrid. I think also football-wise, tactically, he'd be much better suited to the sort of football he meets in he would meet in the Liga in Spain than what he'd have to deal with in the Premiership.
Talk to us a little bit about what you expect from Juve tonight and where the weakness in the Juve team is, if there is one for Real Madrid to exploit.
Well, they're going to line up with what they call a 4-3-3, but it's actually a 4-3-2-1. In other words, Higuain on his own up in front of Douglas Costa and Dybala. they're in pretty good shape. I mean, the important thing about Juve is they had a very important win on Saturday night against AC Milan. An AC Milan side, they're playing very well. They beat them 3-1, maybe a bit flattered to win 3-1 in the end, but really impressive performance in a game in which AC Milan had the better of the game for a long while. And Juve, soaked it up, contained it, and then absolutely clinically finished them off in the second half. So they're in very good shape, both mentally and physically. They're only missing one player that matters, and that would be the Croat, Mario Mandzukic, who's always very important for them. He's on the bench tonight. Doesn't look like he'll play. I expect Juve, obviously, I don't think there's any other way it can go. They'll have to sit back and hang on. They'll play a very Italian game. I mean, Allegri. One thing about Allegri is he is a classic Italian coach in the old sense, in that his team starts and is built from the defence forward, and it's a pretty sound defence. Even though they've lost Bonucci, plays for AC Milan. It's so I expect them to try and ride out the storm, the first half storm at the Bernabeu, and then hang on, at the very least, to hang on for a draw, or if not, to try and sneak one. Because with sneak one through somebody like Higuain, who'll be in an absolute lone ranger role up front.
Is their midfield good enough?
Well, people like Pjanic, Khedira are useful players. My answer to you is that it would depend on how much work the other players around them are willing to do to cover. I mean, that is obviously you don't have a player like Marquisio anymore, for example, who was much more a worker than some of the players. But Khedira is an important player to them. He's been injured and he's come back to form. He scored a wonderful goal on Saturday night. I think he's going to have a good game.
Yeah, you look at someone like Pjanic as well, who I think is suspended for the first leg, and you think Modric, you think Casemiro, you think Kroos, and how good they were in the Champions League final last year. And I understand that the narrative is very easy to put on that the Champions League final last year, and the managers are keen to point out that it's not a rematch really as such. It's a new season, a very different landscape. But when you look at that, and you look at the loss of Pjanic as well, it could become a Real Madrid overrunning Juve in midfield. But that being said, the reasons you've just outlined there a couple of moments ago, that AC Milan performance on Saturday, when you think that they're getting nowhere in a game, they can suddenly hit you for a couple of goals.
Yeah, it's exactly what they did to AC Milan the other night. I don't know. I wouldn't be predicting them hitting Real Madrid for a couple of goals tonight, though. I think they'll be feeling very happy if they manage to stop Real Madrid hitting them for a couple of goals.
Just one last thing I wanted to talk to you about, the long-standing relationship that Zidane has, obviously, with Juve. He says that he learned the culture of going for it and always needing to win when he was there. That period of Juve's existence where they were really the best team in the continent, and I don't know if they've ever quite hit that same peak again.
Well, no, I don't think they have. You're absolutely right. They were one of the best teams. But you're talking about a period then in the 90s when Italian football ruled the waves, and no, they haven't got back to the same level. But it's been very difficult for them because they've had to work up from the Calciopoli scandal and the relegation to Serie B, and work up bit by bit by bit, and they've done well to get as far as they've done. But obviously, they won't consider the job done until they win the Champions League. And even though they keep on telling us that, we want to win the league title as well, there isn't any doubt about the thing that they really want to win and need to win to establish their international credentials, their worldwide credentials, is the Champions League. And if and when they manage to do that, then you could say they've got back to the level of the team in the mid-90s, because that team played in three different finals, three finals, one after the other. Beat Ajax and then lost to Borussia Dortmund and Real Madrid. So if they got a win is required to get back to that level.
Is Zidane a potential Juve manager into the future just by virtue of the fact that he has that relationship with the club, or is that link kind of broken?
No, I don't think that link is broken at all. And I think Juventus, it's a good question. I haven't seen much speculation about that, but it's Juventus are absolutely one of those clubs where the fact that you played for them and did well for them really matters. Yeah, the answer is yes, he could be. If he's actually in jeopardy at Real Madrid, he could be. He could certainly find new employment at the Juventus.
He was obviously there when Del Piero was there. Was Zidane considered the star at the time, or was Del Piero as the?
They were both stars. There was no question. They seemed to, you know. I don't know if you've ever met Zidane. Zidane's an immensely humble person for such a fantastic footballer, such a good coach. He's, not somebody who does numbers, not somebody who's full of self-importance. He's not the special one. He doesn't pull acts like that. And I remember, in the days when he was a player, he was exactly the same. And he left space for players all around him, and he got on very well with Del Piero. There was no tension, and very much because of Zidane.
Hey, hope you enjoyed that latest offering from Off the Ball. If you want to subscribe, and you should, check out just up here. All our latest stuff is just down here. Generally, knock yourself out.